Hey there, we are still in Unit 8, and this lesson is on finding the area of composite figures. A composite figure is made up of triangles, quadrilaterals, semicircles, and other two-dimensional figures. A semicircle is half of a circle. So we know how to find the area of circles, which means that we could find the area of a semicircle because we just find the area of a circle and divide it by 2. We know how to find the area of trapezoids, triangles, and rectangles. So there's nothing new in this video. It's just how do we separate it all to find the area of the whole entire figure. So here's our first shape. And we want to find the area of this composite figure. So when I look at this, I need to break it up into as many shapes that I know how to find the area of. So what I can see is I can see that I have a big rectangle here, which is also a parallelogram. And then I can also see that I have a trapezoid there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw each shape as best as I can below and find the area of each one, and then we're going to add them together. Okay, so I'm going to draw it over here. So here's my trapezoid, and that's just to remind me what we have. And then we have a rectangle, and then I'm going to label each one over here and then find the area. So I know that this is 4, this is 6, and then there's that arrow right here that tells me that that is 2. Okay, and then for my rectangle, this is 28, and that's 14. So remember, for the area of a trapezoid, remember, is half of the height times the bases added together. So let's rewrite that. 1/2, the height is 2, and then my bases are 4 and 6. So 1/2, oops, sorry guys, times 2 times 10. Half of 2 is 1, times 10 would be 10, and the label is feet. So the area of the trapezoid is 10 feet squared. Then we have the rectangle. Remember, the area of a rectangle or a parallelogram is base times height. So we would do, the area is 28 times 14. If I do 28 times 14, I get 392 feet squared. And then the last thing I have to do is find the area of the whole thing together. So that means I'm going to take my area of the trapezoid and area of the rectangle and add them together. So I have 10 feet and 392 feet. 10 feet squared, 392 feet squared is going to get me to 402 feet squared. So area equals 402 feet squared of the whole entire thing. Okay, let's look at this one. I can see that if I draw a line right here, now I have a triangle and now I have a rectangle. So again, I'm going to pull out my shapes and I'm going to draw them. I have a triangle and I have a rectangle. And now let's label what I can. So for the rectangle, my base is 12, my height is 4. And then for the triangle, I can see I can see that this is 8 and the whole thing is 12, which means that that's going to be 4 because 4 plus 8 is 12. And then I can also see that this whole thing is 10. And if this is 4 over here, that means this length right here is going to be 6. So let's label that 4 and 6. This is my base. There's my right angle. Oops, oh my goodness. And there's my height. Okay, remember the area of a triangle is 1/2 times base times height. So I'm going to do 1/2 times 4 times 6. Half of 4 is 2 times 6 is 12. So the area of the triangle is 12 feet squared. And then for the rectangle, we have base times height, so the area is just going to be 12 times 4, which is 48 feet squared. And then remember, lastly, we have to add them together. So area is going to be 48 plus 12. So 48 plus 12 is 62. So the whole thing is going to be 62 feet squared. All right, this one has some semicircles that we get to work with. So if I look here, I can see we have a square, and then we have two semicircles. So my square is going to be pretty easy because all of the sides are 2 inches. So I know right away that my square is going to be 2 times 2, and that's going to be 4 inches squared. Then we have the semicircles to work with. So we draw that. And if I think about this, remember a semicircle is just half of a circle. That's a terrible circle, sorry. But if I look at this line, that goes through, this line right here is that line that I just circled. That's labeled 2 inches. That goes through the whole thing, which is my diameter. That's my diameter, which means my radius is going to be 1 inch, because remember, the radius is half of the diameter. So now I know what the radius is for my semicircle, okay? So the area of a circle, remember, is 1/2, oh my gosh, no, it's not. I'm ahead of myself. The area of a circle is pi r squared, okay? But then the area of a semicircle, because that's half of the circle, is going to be half of that, okay? So let's plug in what we know. 1/2, and then we have 3.14 times 1 squared. 1 squared is 1 times 3.14 is 3.14. So we have 1/2 times 3.14. And if I do half, 0.5 times 3.14, I get 1.57 inches squared. That's for one of my semicircles, but I have 2 and they're the exact same. So now I ran out of room, so I'm going to do this over here. I'm going to do 1.57 and I'm going to times it by 2. Which I just did 3.15 divided, or times a half, and I got 1.57. So I know that it's going to equal 3.14, but let's look. 1.57 times 2 is 3.14. So that's what it is for both of the semicircles, okay? So I'm going to write that here so I remember. Semicircle times 2. Okay, and then we are going to add those together. So we have to take my 4 inches and my 3.14 and add them together. So let's do that up here. 4 plus 3.14 is going to be 7.14 inches squared, the whole entire thing. Okay, what I could have done with my semicircle, and maybe you were thinking of this, is because these two are exactly the same, and they basically, and because it's half of a circle and they're the same, they're basically one circle put together. So I could have just done pi r squared and not times it by, or not divided it by a half, because basically we had it, I could have taken my whole, or I could have just found the area of one circle because I had 2 halves. And then lastly, we want to find the area of the shaded region in the composite figure below. If you feel like you could do this on your own, you should pause and try it. Otherwise, follow along with me and write this down. So we have, if I were to, my goodness, I always do that. If I were to draw this line right here, we can see that we have a trapezoid. Here's my base 1, here's my base 2. It told me that the radius of this circle is 20, which is half, which means that the diameter would be 40, which means that the height of my trapezoid would be 40. So let's figure out the area of my trapezoid first. So So base 1 is 50, base 1 is 80, base 2 is 50, the height is 40. Remember, it doesn't matter too much which bases are labeled where. So then we do half of the height times the sum of my bases. Half of 40 is 20, so I'm just going to do that right now. 20 times 130, because 80 plus 50 is 130. I know that 2 times 13 is 26, and then I add my 2 zeros. So A equals 2600, so 2,600 centimeters squared. That's my trapezoid. If I were to include that white part that is taken out, okay? But now I have to find the area of the white circle, or the white semicircle, which is this. And then when I find what that is, I actually have to subtract that from my trapezoid, because remember, we want to find the shaded region. So I'm going to draw my semicircle over here. I like to draw it exactly how I see it in my shape. And remember, I'm told that the radius is 20 centimeters, which is what I need for my area. So remember, the area of a semicircle is half times pi r squared, because the area of a full circle is pi r squared, but we have to take half of it. So now let's plug in what we have. 1/2, and then we do 3.14 times 20 squared. Remember, that squared goes with the 20. So 1/2, and then 3.14 times 20 squared is 400, so times 400. So then we're going to do 0.5 times 3.14 times 400, and we get 628 centimeters squared. Okay, and then lastly, remember, I try to zoom out here a little bit. Remember that we need to take our trapezoid, which is 2,600, and we need to subtract the 628, because this is what we have to take out from the shaded region. So 2,600 minus 628 gives me 1,972 centimeters squared. So that's my total area of the shaded region. Alrighty, keep these notes close. Have a good day.